It's October, and I know the surprise. I'm Michael Smerconish in Philadelphia. The final day of voting is 4 weeks from Tuesday. And even without my showing you the latest polling, you already know the state of play. While Vice President Kamala Harris has a slight edge over former President Trump in the popular vote, the 7 widely recognized battleground states are within the margin of error. This after a long, strange trip in which nothing has moved the nation from an intractable divide. When it began, there was a lot of talk about a third-party factor, but they couldn't find a ticket to meet the moment. And the fresher face from Florida never got the traction that some had anticipated. So Trump cruised to the nomination without ever having to debate his opponents, and was actually bolstered by 4 indictments and suffered no setback among Republicans even after being convicted. The general election field then took shape. Age was immediately a factor. The only thing these candidates could agree on was to debate at the start of summer and not at the end. It didn't go well for Biden. He yielded to pressure to step aside. Talk of a quick competition yielded to a coronation. The torch quickly passed. Another debate was soon scheduled with a clear Harris victory. And now the race returned to where it first began, a deadlock. Which is the biggest surprise of all, that despite a storyline that, if pitched in Hollywood, would have been rejected as too fantastical, nothing has really moved the needle. Which brings me to October. The longshoreman strike has been suspended, but there's still war in the Middle East, war in Ukraine, the aftermath of a devastating hurricane, and the yet-to-be-determined impact of an 11th-hour legal filing by the special counsel. Plenty of time for events we could never forecast to unfold, featuring people whose names we might not even know. And maybe even their pets. Anybody remember Kristi Noem's dog? Kristi Noem's goat? Bobby's brainworm? Bobby and the bear? Bobby and the whale? J.D. Vance and the childless cat ladies? And of course, the unsubstantiated claim of eating dogs and cats in Springfield. You can't make this stuff up. But here's the lesson. Yesterday on my SiriusXM radio program, Professor Alan Lichtman, he with those 13 keys that allow him to predict the election winner, this year he says it's Harris. Well, here's what he said about an October surprise.
One of the greatest myths of American politics is the October surprise. I have never changed my prediction in response to an October surprise because the keys gauge the big picture of incumbent governance and strength and don't sway by the events of the campaign.
Right. In 40 years, he's never changed a prediction, and he's called them correctly in 9 of the last 10 elections. The October surprise is that there will be noise, but there will be no surprise. Joining me now, David Urban, the GOP strategist and CNN senior political commentator who advised the Trump campaigns of 2016 and 2020, and the Ragin' Cajun, James Carville, the legendary Democratic strategist. He ran Bill Clinton's 1992 winning campaign and is the focus of a new CNN film called Carville. Winning is Everything, Stupid. It premieres tonight at 7 p.m. James, big jobs report yesterday, robust stock market, declining interest rates, tamed inflation. If it's the economy, stupid, why isn't Harris ahead?
Well, first of all, you forgot the dropping crime rate, which is really impressive. You know, she's slightly ahead, and it's not the election. These things tend to break one way or the other at the end. So if there's 7 swing states, the least likely result is they break 4-3. But I can't stop the commentariat from saying it's going to be neck and neck and it's going to come down to this. I think it'll break at the end. I think someone will carry swing states 5-2 or 6-1. And whoever does that will do well in the House and do well in the Senate. But this thing is a long way from decided.
Okay, so you're disagreeing with the commentary. David Urban, do you think somebody's going to emerge? I assume if you do, you believe it's going to be Donald Trump, or do you think we could be having this conversation the Saturday before the Tuesday election and still sitting here saying, who the hell knows?
Yeah, listen, far be it from me to disagree with the legendary James Carville, right? I mean, I don't get legendary in my introduction, so it's pretty good.
Carville does.
Listen, it's pretty good, Michael, but listen, I like to think that maybe I'm the third most knowledgeable person on this panel about Pennsylvania today between you and Carville. and me. So, but I would just say this, Michael. I think that it's going to be tight. Look, the electorate in Pennsylvania is split. It's a little bit different than when James ran the Wofford campaign back in the day there, and it's changed a lot, right? The Democrats are now Republicans. Republicans are now Democrats in Pennsylvania. It's a crazy place. And I don't think, when I'm out and about in Pennsylvania, I hear from people that, they're just not ready to commit to Kamala Harris. They haven't seen her enough, heard from her enough. Trump's out there every day, like on the hustings, and Kamala Harris just hasn't made the pitch yet, hasn't asked for the vote out there. And if she does lose, I think it's because she's kept in bubble wrap on a shelf someplace. They're playing defense, not offense. They're playing like they're 14 points up, not like they're neck and neck. And so I think it's going to be close just because of the nature of the electorate.
Okay, James, is she playing it too safe?
Well, first of all, I agree with Mr. Urban. People don't know enough about her. They know who she is. They know who Donald Trump is. They know what Donald Trump is. They still want to find out what Harris is. Now, this playing it safe, I just heard all of this whining about long-form interviews, and you don't have a specific plan. She's got an 81-page economic plan, okay? She's agreed to do 60 Minutes, which is the ultimate long-form interview show. Of course, Donald Trump weasels out of the next debate, weasels out of 60 Minutes, but we don't think she's specific enough. There's not enough meat on those bones. She doesn't sit down for long-term television. What garbage. I mean, look at the facts here, please. But David is right. She's got to fill herself out, and I think that Trump doesn't want her to fill out because she clobbered him in a debate in September, and if he dares stick his head up again, she'll kick it off again.
Yeah,
See,
but
David,
Michael,
that's why he's legendary.
Yeah, but James, if you were running this campaign, you'd have her in Juniata County, not Juanita County. You'd have her in Juniata County. You'd have her in these places in Pennsylvania where James, where these elections are decided, right? The people they need to meet her, they need to see her, touch, smell, taste. They need to understand who she is. They know Donald Trump. They don't know who she is, and that's what they need. And you know what you'd be doing differently in Pennsylvania. You've won in Pennsylvania.
Well, I mean, first of all, she does have Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, Colorado, too. But look, I think she's going to campaign hard in Pennsylvania. I don't like to predict elections, but I like I said, I think this thing is going to break, and I feel more comfortable that it'll break Harris's way than not. But I'm can be all Mr. Urban, you don't get to be a legend until you're almost 80. You wait, you'll be one day. I'd rather be.
Hey, I want to roll something for you that everybody else is mischaracterizing as an attempt by the former First Lady to sell her new book, her new memoir. But David Urban, I see right through it. It's 20 seconds. Let's play it, and then I'm going to make a comment.
Individual freedom is a fundamental principle that I safeguard. Without a doubt, there is no room for compromise when it comes to this essential right that all women possess from birth: individual freedom. What does my body, my choice really mean?
That's not a book commercial. That's a campaign commercial. That is a very clever. I mean, I give it props, David Urban. That's a way of her appealing, right, to suburban women outside of Philly.
I wish we'd have ran. I wish that book promotion would have come out about 2-3 months ago.
But am I right? I mean, you're acknowledging it.
Listen, I have no knowledge of that being a coordinated campaign commercial or a book promotion, but I would say, like you said, Michael, very slick, very smart, and it says, look, in the Trump household, we have, we view things maybe a little differently than maybe is being talked about on the campaign trail.
A quick final question to James Carville. James, you know that Trump is returning to Butler, Pennsylvania today, scene of that first assassination attempt. He's taking Elon Musk with him. Wise or unwise?
I don't, it's fine if that's what he wants to do. I think y'all have the entirely wrong interpretation of what Mrs. Trump did. I think she can't stand him. And I think it was very intentional. Not only did she put out about how pro-choice she was, she also put out how pro-immigrant it was. But again, The rule of the commentariat is every piece of information must be interpreted in the most negative light to the Democrat. I think the interpretation that she's doing this to help him politically is entirely wrong. I think she's trying to cause him all of the misery and angst that she possibly can.
Quick response from you, Urban.
No, listen, hey, I would just say again, I'm going to, James predicted that Harris is going to break and take Pennsylvania. I'll predict Trump's going to take Pennsylvania. And then Michael, you, me, and James, the legend, can go have a cheesesteak, or we can go down to Famous Deli and have a breakfast and celebrate the Trump victory after Election Day.
There's
I would
great
love
food
it.
in
Nice to
Philadelphia.
see-
I'll take you on that, Mr. Urban.
Nice to see both of you. And